It's 6 in the morning. I haven't slept. Downstairs, my family is making breakfast like nothing happened. They're laughing. I can hear bacon sizzling, forks clinking against plates. Sounds that should be comforting, the soundtrack to a normal Tuesday. But last night wasn't normal. Last night, we were tied up in our own home. I can still feel the rope biting into my wrists, the ghost of a hand clamped over my mouth. They told me it was a nightmare. They're telling me I'm losing my mind. But I found something. Something the man who was here left behind. Something that proves it was real, and that he's not done with us. My feet felt like lead walking down the stairs. Each step was a fight against the memory of being dragged down them, my cheeks scraping the banister. The smell of pancakes and syrup was so strong it was sickening, a cheerful scent that felt totally wrong. The kitchen was bright and sunny. Mom was at the stove, humming. Dad was smiling at something on his tablet. My little sister Chloe was making a smiley face on her pancakes with blueberries. They all looked up when I came in, their smiles warm, genuine, and absolutely terrifying. "Morning, sleepyhead," Mom chirped, flipping a pancake like an expert. "You were really out of it. Must have been exhausted." I just stared. My voice was a dry croak. How can you all act like this?" My dad put down his tablet, his brow furrowed with that gentle concern of his. "Act like what, honey?" "It's Tuesday. We're having breakfast." "Last night," I whispered, my eyes jumping from face to face, searching for any sign they remembered, any hint of the trauma I knew we'd all been through. "The men who broke in. They tied us up. You don't remember?" Chloe giggled, drowning her blueberry smiley face in syrup. "You had that nightmare again? You were yelling in your sleep. It was kind of creepy." "It wasn't a nightmare," I insisted, my voice getting louder and more frantic. I held out my wrists, looking for the raw red marks I could still feel, but my skin was smooth. "He held a knife to your throat, Mom. He told you to be quiet, or he'd..." I couldn't finish. The memory was a physical thing, a block of ice in my gut. Mom turned from the stove, her face a mask of pity. She came over and put a cool hand on my forehead. "Alex, your heart is racing. You just had a bad dream, that's all. A really vivid, awful one." "It wasn't a dream," I yelled, pulling away from her. The sound of my own voice shocked the room into silence. The pop song on the radio was gone. The only sound was the forgotten pancake sizzling on the stove. My dad stood up, his chair scraping the floor. "Okay, Alex. Let's all just calm down," he said, using his "I'm defusing a bomb" voice. "You're safe. We're all safe." It was just a bad dream. They were a chorus of calm denial. A wall of normal I couldn't break through. They weren't looking at me like I was a fellow victim. They were looking at me like I was a problem. And standing there, trembling in my own sunny kitchen, a horrifying thought started to bloom. What if they were right? What if I really was losing my mind? I spent the morning in a fog, desperately searching. While Dad went to work and Chloe went out with friends, Mom made me stay home from class. She said I needed to rest. I knew she just wanted to watch me. I let her think I was in my room lying down, but the second she got on the phone, I started my investigation. A detective in my own home, hunting for ghosts that only I could see. I started at the front door. The lock was perfect. The door frame unmarked. I remembered one of them kicking it in, a splintering crack that still echoed in my skull. But there was nothing. No sign of forced entry. I ran my fingers over the smooth paint. I checked the back door, all the windows, Even the doggy door Chloe always forgets to lock. Everything was secure. Normal. My heart was hammering. I moved to the living room where they'd forced us to kneel. I got on my hands and knees, my eyes scanning the hardwood for a single scuff mark, a stray fibre on the rug. Anything. The room was immaculate. The pillows on the sofa were perfectly fluffed. The magazines on the coffee table were in a neat stack. It was like a cleaning crew had come through and erased every trace of the chaos. I got more frantic. I tore my bedroom apart, pulling back the sheets, searching for any sign of a struggle. I remembered being thrown on the bed, the weight of someone pressing me down, but the sheets were just normally rumpled. My mom appeared in the doorway, her arms crossed, her expression pained. "Alex, what on earth are you doing?" she asked softly. "Looking for proof," I mumbled, my voice muffled from under the bed. "Proof that I'm not crazy." She sighed, a long tired sound. "Honey, maybe we should call Dr. Miller, just to talk." And there it was. The suggestion. The first official step toward labeling me as broken. The idea of sitting in some sterile office trying to explain all this to a stranger while my mom watched with pity. It sent a new wave of panic through me. I felt cornered. They weren't just erasing what happened. They were trying to erase my memory of it. I shook my head, backing away from her. I had to find something. I had to. If I didn't, I'd be swallowed by their version of reality, a world where my terror was just a bad dream. Just as I was about to give up, to finally surrender and make the appointment with Dr. Miller, my fingers brushed against something. I was on the floor, my cheek against the carpet, trying to remember the exact position I was in when they tied my hands. My hand was sweeping blindly under the dust ruffle of my bed when it closed around a small, hard object. I pulled it out and sat up. My breath caught in my throat. There, in the palm of my hand, was a button. A cheap, black plastic button, the kind you'd see on a generic work coat. 4 little holes in the centre, with a tiny piece of black thread still clinging to one of them. I had never seen this button before in my life. It wasn't mine. It wasn't my dad's or my mum's. It was foreign. An invader. A wave of triumphant relief washed over me, so strong it almost knocked me over. I wasn't crazy. My mind didn't make this up. This tiny piece of plastic was my anchor to sanity. It was real. It happened. I closed my fist around it, the sharp edges digging into my palm. The feeling was grounding. But the relief was quickly followed by a chill. This button came off a coat. One of their coats. He was in my room, close enough to my bed for this to fall off and roll underneath. And if this was here, then he was real. The threat was real. And a phrase I had tried to dismiss as part of the nightmare came rushing back with absolute, terrifying clarity. Clutching the button, I squeezed my eyes shut, and the night replayed in my mind, not as a blurry nightmare, but like a recording. The splintering crash of the door wasn't just a sound. It was a vibration I felt in my bones. 2 men in ski masks, bulky in their thick coats. They were so quiet, so methodical. There was no shouting, no chaos. They moved with a chilling, professional calm that was more terrifying than any amateur. They rounded us up, my family from their beds, me from the hallway where I'd frozen. They used zip ties on my parents and Chloe, but on me, they used a coarse rope that scraped my skin. I remembered the smell in the air, cold night air mixed with something stale, like damp wool and cigarettes. They didn't ransack the place. They didn't seem to want the TV or our laptops. One man stood guard, while the other one dragged me through the house, his grip like iron on my arm. He made me show him where Mom kept her jewellery, where Dad kept the emergency cash. His voice was a low, emotionless rumble, but it was the end that now came back into sharp focus. After they had what they came for, the man who had led me around brought me back to my room. He pushed me onto the bed. His partner was at the door, ready to go. But this one lingered. He leaned over me, his masked face inches from mine. I could feel his breath, cold and smelling like nicotine, through the fabric. The other guy called his name from the hall, impatient. But he ignored him. He just stared down at me with those dark, unreadable eyes. And then he whispered it. A low, gravelly promise meant only for me. See you tomorrow. At the time, it felt like just another threat, but now, holding the button from his coat, the words took on a new, sinister weight. It wasn't a random parting shot. It was an appointment. He knew that somehow, for everyone else, this night would be erased. He knew I'd be the only one who remembered. And he promised he'd be back. The button wasn't just proof. It was a token he'd left behind. A reminder. He wasn't just a thief. He was something else. And last night was only the beginning. My moment of victory vanished, replaced by a new kind of dread. I ran downstairs, the button clutched in my hand like a sacred object. My mom was in the living room, calmly folding laundry. "Mom, look," I said, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and excitement. I opened my hand. I found this, under my bed. It's from his coat. It was real. She stopped folding and peered at the button. She didn't touch it. She just looked from it to me, her face softening with that same heartbreaking pity. "Oh, Alex," she said gently. "It's just a button. It could have come from anywhere. Maybe it fell off an old jacket and got kicked under there." "No, I've never seen it before. It was his. I know it." "You're fixating, honey," she said, turning back to the laundry. "You wanted to find proof, so your mind found something and made it fit. It's playing tricks on you because you're so stressed." Her dismissal was so casual, so final. It felt like I was showing her the key to a locked room, and she was telling me it was just a weird piece of metal. The button, my one solid piece of proof, meant nothing to her. My hope curdled back into despair. I was completely, utterly alone in this. That afternoon, I locked myself in my room and fell into an internet rabbit hole. I searched for everything. Home invasion, local break-ins, memory loss after trauma, shared delusion. I scoured local news sites and police reports. Nothing, not a single report of a disturbance on our street. The digital world was just as silent and dismissive as my family. As the sun started to set, casting long menacing shadows across my floor, a new fear began to creep in. A quiet, insidious paranoia. I felt watched. The normal creaks of the house suddenly sounded like footsteps. A car slowing down outside sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. He said he would be back. Was he watching me now? Waiting? The world that felt so safe 24 hours ago now felt like a hunting ground, and I was the only one who could see the predator. That evening I took a long hot shower, hoping the steam could somehow clear my head. It didn't work. I just stood there, the water beating down on me, replaying his whisper over and over. "See you tomorrow." Today was tomorrow. The sun was down. Night was here. When I finally got out, my skin red from the heat, I grabbed a towel that felt like a useless shield. I wiped a circle in the thick steam on the bathroom mirror. My reflection stared back, eyes bloodshot, encircled in darkness. I looked haunted. I looked exactly how my parents saw me, on the verge of a breakdown. And then I saw it. Just below the circle I'd cleared, the condensation was resettling, but not randomly. Letters were appearing, etched into the fog by an invisible finger. First an S, then an E, then another E. My blood ran cold. I stood frozen, not breathing, as 3 words materialized on the glass. See you tomorrow. I stumbled backward, my heart trying to hammer its way out of my chest. He wasn't just coming back, he was here. Or he could reach me somehow. He could write on my mirror. The rules of reality were dissolving around me. "Mom! Dad!" I screamed, my voice raw. I didn't wait. I scrambled out of the bathroom, pulling on my robe, and ran to the top of the stairs. "You have to come see!" Now I heard them running. Dad got there first, Mom right behind, their faces full of alarm. "What is it, Alex?" "What's wrong?" my dad asked, grabbing my shoulders. "The mirror," I gasped, pointing back into the bathroom. "Look at the mirror." He walked cautiously into the steamy room with Mom and me right behind him. He looked at the mirror and saw nothing. The message was gone. The glass was just an even, cloudy sheet of condensation. My dad turned to me, his alarm melting away into a deep, profound sadness. "There's nothing there, Alex." "It was," I sobbed, my whole body shaking. "It was there, I swear." It said, "See you tomorrow." My mom put her arm around me, pulling me into a hug that felt more like a cage. "Okay, honey. Okay. We believe you saw something. Let's get you to bed." They didn't believe me. Of course they didn't. To them, this was the final proof. My nightmare had graduated to hallucinations. I had crossed a line in their minds, from troubled to unstable. As they led me to my room, their gentle whispers felt like shovels of dirt being thrown on a coffin. They were burying me alive with their concern. Conclusion. They made me take a sleeping pill. I palmed it, pretending to swallow it, hiding it under my tongue until they finally left my room, their worried whispers trailing down the hall. I heard phrases like "first thing in the morning" and "emergency appointment." They were going to have me committed. The thought was terrifying, but it was a distant fear. The real fear was much closer. It's 1:17 a.m. now. I'm in my room. The pill is on my nightstand, right next to the black button. My 2 pieces of proof. One that the past was real, and one that the future is coming for me. The house is quiet, but it's not a normal quiet. It's a heavy, deliberate silence. It's the quiet of a held breath. The quiet of a predator waiting for its prey to finally fall asleep. I barricaded my door with a chair. It's a pathetic defense, I know. I'm sitting on the floor with my back to the wall, staring at the door. My eyes burn, but I can't close them. I won't close them. He said he'd be back. He promised. And I'm the only one who'll be awake to greet him. A floorboard just creaked downstairs. It wasn't the house settling. It was slow. Weighed down. Someone is moving around in the dark, so confident that everyone else is asleep. So confident that the only person who remembers is helpless. He said he'd be back. And I think he's here.